Hi, thanks for attending my talk. This is about the cooperative communication, especially for the MIMO systems in 5G. My name is Ganeshan Tyagarajan, and here is the quick outlook of the talk. We'll just introduce the problem and look at how the cooperative communication using MIMO in downlink, uplink, and localization can be effectively utilized for realizing the applications in 5G scenario, and offer some concluding remarks. So consider this particular article about resource allocation in wireless networks. So if you look at the say 5G scenario, the resources what you assign for the at the physical layer should be based on the channel state information when that the resource is going to be utilized across say a few milliseconds or so. But the moment you are going to assign the resources for being used across say a few seconds, then the CSA based allocation alone is not good enough for optimally utilizing the system. So in that case, you have to use some hybrid allocation scheme based on CSI and other information that you may collect using the location based information or the statistics collected over time and so on, right? So the scheduling synchronization and or even the topology, like what is that grouping of nodes that you are going to assign them together, or what type of power control that you are going to assign, cannot be assigned only based on the CSA based information, but you need something more. And that makes it all the more interesting in the 5G scenario, that now we are looking at time scales, not only in the TTI scale, but also larger in the case for optimizing the overall system performance. So, and in that context, the position aware communication becomes an important part in this entire optimization procedure. So for example, if the UE is moving from closer to the base station to the cell edge, or it is going moving to a place where multiple base stations can address it. So all that information can be exploited if we actually track the position information. And in the case of 5G, it's all the more important because it is the performance of the system is going to be highly dependent on the beamforming, and especially in millimeter wave kind of system, the beamform, the analog beamforming is going to decide the direction in which the UE has to be there for being connected to the particular base station, or it could be even connected to multiple base stations if it is in specific locations. So the position based information becomes very critical for the performance tuning or even dynamically allocating resources for addressing the mobiles. And so is the topology and power control. Topology here, I mean a grouping of certain users under a particular cell or even being addressed by multiple base stations. So, so a couple of things which are important. One, the channel quality information or the channel state information at the millisecond level, which is crucial for allocating 5 resources at the TTL level, TTI level. But when it comes to allocation of resources across several seconds, the user may be moving either fast or slow, depending on the movement and the particular location where the user is located, we may have to change our strategy, either power control strategy or even the resource allocation strategy. So that's why this is, this graph aptly captures the type of optimization framework that one need to employ for tuning the performance of the network. So that's very much applicable for IoT or MMTC kind of application, which is going to be the focus of this particular talk. Let's say you have massive number of sensors deployed over a geographical area. And since the nature of the MMTC is that the usage is sparse, so one can look at the way of allocating resources, whether you allow the sensors to contend for the medium, or you cooperate, or you pre-allocate resources, and so on. So we'll come to those details later few slides. So this is the kind of scenario that we are looking at. So there is a, say, a couple of cells, and there are user clusters, and some of the user clusters are addressable by its own base station or the cell station. And some of them actually potentially in zones where this is in the cell boundary, which can be potentially addressed by multiple base stations together. So in this kind of scenario, so we look at few cases how the uplink downlink techniques can be altered to improve the performance, especially in the context of MMTC, where there's a large number of sensors, and they are the communication is sparse in nature. So now in this kind of scenario, currently what is being used is we can look at mesh networking across various sensors, which can be used for relaying from far away user to the base station through multiple hops, or even looking at creating a local network where one of the node takes as a leader and aggregates data and sends it opportunistically, in the sense that whenever the channel is conducive for communicating with its own base station, then it transmits. Otherwise, it waits for the right opportunity. And other option is the relay nodes. Basically, the cellular operator installs several relay nodes across the city, and which can be used for enabling communication with the faraway nodes. And all these approaches are good, but the thing is, we need to look at from the context of 5G, from the protocol restrictions or the definition, the procedures what we have in 5G, whether all these techniques can be employed and whether it is effective to employ them. So that is a question we are trying to answer. So this talk is going to be a collection of the available literature, and there's not a new result that come out of our research. So let's look at the downlink problem. So now when you have large number of antennas, especially in the case of massive MIMO, the inter-user interference can be reduced, in the sense that by the nature, once the dimension of the channel matrix increases, the orthogonality also improves across the users. Even if you take a case of simple matched filtering precoding, that is, you pre-multiply the received vector by the channel matrix conjugate, complex conjugate transpose, H Hermitian. So in this case, the complexity increases because all the antennas have to be associated with one particular G node B, and if that one G node B has to address hundreds of antennas, definitely the complexity increases in handling that kind of scenario. Now, so on the other hand, when you have multiple base stations with its own set of antennas, and if you pool them all of them together, that can imitate the massive MIMO scenario. But the implementation nitty-gritty details here is that perfect timing alignment across base stations, and the cooperation of how do we allocate the resources, the time and frequency resources across base stations. So that needs to be coordinated well. In cooperative MIMO, what we can do, which is a one step next above the massive MIMO, where the multiple base stations not only cooperate in terms of the time and frequency allocation and the addressing specific users at a time, but also they go to the next level where the messages which need to be conveyed to the UEs also shared across the multiple base stations, and some kind of pre-coding happens not only at the channel level where you try to massage the data to send through spatial channels, but also you do what is called as interference alignment, where the messages are also used to encode them, which gets transmitted across several base stations to a particular user, or even several users simultaneously, and they can cancel the interference in an effective way. So that is the major difference that I'm going to highlight in this talk. In the case of cooperative MIMO, we actually completely eliminate the interference. In the case of uncooperative MIMO or a general massive MIMO, the interference is only minimized either through the orthogonality property that comes from the large dimensions or through specific coding that we apply through beamforming. So just to highlight the importance, just look at the graphs at the bottom of the slide. Here it just compares the average UE throughput in megabits per second, and the graph plots CDF. It compares the non-cooperative, which is the red curve, and the cooperative. As you can see, the cooperative communication can really concentrate the average throughput over a small region. That means that it is guaranteed that above 90% or above 80%, the guaranteed data rate is much, much higher than what can be offered by the non-cooperative communication. And these two are compared for two different type of scenario with the 15 transmit antennas and 15 and 50 transmit antennas. Naturally, you can see that with the more number of antennas, the average throughput is pushed for, increased almost 2 times. Okay, and so that is the point we are trying to drive at. So now let's look at what can be done to enable such performance. Let's look at the cooperative MIMO with the practical algorithm point of view. Just to simplify the presentation, I'm not giving you the interference alignment idea math as such, but I'm giving intuitively the block diagonalization method, which is popular way of doing multi-user MIMO, where pre-coding is done for different users differently. So for example, for xj is the message to be delivered for user j, and that gets pre-coded with the matrix pj, and it gets transmitted across the channel between the base station and the jth user, whose channel is hj. So now by choosing these projection or pre-coding matrices differently for a different user, one can try to minimize the interference across users. For example, the way I'm using selecting pj is such that it lies in the null space of other channel matrices. Basically, HJ's null space covers all the PK pre-coding matrices for other users other than J. So that's by choosing these pre-coding matrices suitably, one can minimize the interference in the multi-user MIMO case using the block diagonalization method. So imagine that one can extend this idea to the next level for the cooperative MIMO, where the multiple base stations, they do pre-coding differently for different users, and at the same time they coordinate such a way that addressing the same jth user, multiple base station, they do their own pre-coding in such a way that the interference can cancel for that particular user, and the signals for the particular user get added together coherently, and the interference which is delivered to other users also cancel at the same time. So it is a one level of further optimization, I would say. And so that is the intuitive motivation to do the interference alignment. So in the case of interference alignment, what we do is the cancellation of interferences at the given user level for the specific user is done not only through the pre-coding matrix pj, but also through one more level of coding done to the messages themselves. So there's a two level of coding. One, there is a message coding, and the next level is the beamforming pre-coding. And that's what the interference alignment allows us to do. And that will be the most effective way to convey information to users who are at the cell edge, and so that not one base station can alone deliver the message effectively, but multiple base stations surrounding to that, say, send the information collectively to that particular user to improve the overall sum rate for the UEs. So this is what our holy grail is, to achieve this kind of performance. And another intuitive idea one can look at is the simple opportunities beamforming. Let's say there are M users in the area in the, let's say, at the cell edge of 2 or 3 base stations. Now what they can do is that we can choose, or the base station can choose K users among the M whose signal strength or SQNR is better compared to others. So even if you apply this simple trick, one can show that the sum rate of the entire network is improved. And so there are multiple ways to achieve the cooperative communication. The simplest way is using opportunistic beamforming, or the next way is using the block diagonalization kind of method. And the next higher level is the interference alignment of our cooperative MIMO downlink. So now for each of these methods, what is needed is good feedback of the channel matrix information, and sometimes even may have to share the messages across base stations. So that is a complication for the system. So now let's see how the 5G makes it possible. 5G has a lot of features which enables that kind of downlink cooperative MIMO. One thing is the CSI feedback is reduced significantly. The complexity is reduced after doing analog beamforming, because the effective channel matrix is of a smaller dimension. And second thing is the multiple GNB synchronization across cells in few nanoseconds is possible with the new technology that is put in the 5G. And also the temporal relationship between the SS burst, the RACH, corresponding RACH, and the corresponding PDSH, they are transmitted with the corresponding temporal relationship, such that the same analog beam gets used in those particular time slots. So which make this alignment possible across GNBs, and they can allocate the frequency resources which matches to the time. So this is decided much a priori when you are doing the scheduling of users. And that is what this particular idea is. Basically, now you are trying to bring in the topology and the power control, which spans across several TTI intervals. And that is time is good enough for you to utilize for even sending the CSI information or the messages which needs to be transmitted across users. However, it's not everything is hunky-dory. There are some issues. You have to look at the complexity at the GNB is much, much higher now. And now the one G node has to listen to RACH from multiple users across cells. And you need to keep track of the beam positions for several users. And now this distributed arrays also have a field of view problem, because not all base stations will the same users because of the geographical location of multiple buildings. They are optically occluding them or so on. So those are practical issues one need to solve. But however, in general, you can get a higher throughput if you can do the cooperative MIMO downlink. And similar thing similar improvement can be obtained by using cooperative MIMO in the uplink as well. So one key problem is the massive random access. Once you have several, say, thousands of users in a given cell scenario, like in MMTC, how do we even do the RACH sequence allocation? Because that many independent RACH sequences is not available in the standard. So one have to look at the random, randomly ascending resources, or even looking at the NOMOP type of access where there is non-orthogonal detection has to happen. So now the multiple base station or the cooperative uplink also comes in handy here, in the sense that the rack sequence is not only detected by its own base station, also the all neighboring base stations, and that enables or increases the probability of detection. And they can also share the detection information like LLR from one base station to another base station, or even to a centralized location like a CEDU, where the decision can be taken whether a particular user is detected successfully or not. So now let's look at how, in this case again, cooperative MIMO or massive MIMO, which one is better? So as I mentioned, the rack sequences are limited in number. So massive RACH, how do you address? Is that now again using the sparse nature of the activity in the IoT sensors, the same code can be assigned to multiple devices and based on clusters. And that again, the spatial information of the user is very critical for identifying these clusters and dynamically changing the cluster size. And multiple devices with similar SKN or timing advance can be grouped together. And another thing is the pre-assigning the resources for the RAC sequence. This, for example, you can refer to this paper where whenever there is an RRC disconnect for an user who is going to go to sleep mode, you can pre-assign the next resource allocation or the next time and frequency as well as the RAC code to that particular user. So when he comes back, he will use that and directly without really getting into the contention mode of uplink random access. So, and it is also shown by simulations that the cooperative MIMO in general performs much better compared to the massive MIMO, even using up to 4 times smaller number of antennas. But however, it uses 3 base stations. So even if you consider that it is equivalent to 48 antennas compared to 64 antennas for a massive MIMO. So it is shown that with even by n by 4 antennas per base station and 3 base stations cooperating with each other can improve the detection of the RAC sequence or the uplink RAC request signal. And naturally, with the higher number of higher length of the RAC sequence, one can reduce the probability of detection or false alarm, and it happens for a different number of antennas across different number of antennas, from 1 antenna to 16 antennas. So naturally, so that is again a very important result. It shows that doing cooperative MIMO in the uplink or even the uplink access also improves the performance. Now, another important feature which is added in 5G recently is the pre-allocated uplink resource, which is similar to what I talked about in the previous slide, where the resources allocated through the PUR message and through RRC configuration, the G-node B tells a UE to use specific resources and the time window is given with the specific time window. And through that, we can reduce the uplink access time. And this also allows us to predetermine the resources which can be used for detecting the particular data across multiple base stations. And so that's that is the one of the recent features got added in the release 16. So now, so this gives more details on what are the parameters which are given on the PUR configuration message. And now, as we talked about, the location information is very critical for the performance of cooperative MIMO. So now we can use the cooperative MIMO for even improving the localization of 5G or the mobiles. And these are the existing methods. So let me go to the 5G where it is shown that by using a virtual group of clusters where you have some agents which collect information through its neighbors about their own location, and then the agents collectively exchange information and improve the localization of various sensors. And that's what it has shown, that as the number of agents increase and or the number of anchors increase, you can show that the square error in the position can be reduced significantly. And that kind of completes all the information that is required to improve our resource allocation in the case of 5G network. And this is one of the papers where they have shown how to use the angle of departure and time of arrival information to improve the position using the existing resources or methods available in the 5G. And that concludes my talk. Basically, we have shown that the massive MIMO available in 5G can be used for reducing the interference or eliminating interference, and that can be used for it is very useful for in the downlink as well as in the uplink. However, there are other details like the suitable RRC messages or MAC messages required to implement them needs to be looked at. And if there are ways to add those missing features, that can be addressed in the future releases. And that concludes my talk. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.